Well, a big announcement from the province saying they are cracking down on violent tow truck turf wars, including restricting tow zones on the highway and a new joint task force to investigate criminal activity involving the OPP and municipal police services. Joining me now with more on how to help end what we've seen, things like shootings, assaults, even arson. OPP Commissioner Thomas Karika joins me now live. Good morning to you, Commissioner.
Good morning.
We are looking at this video, and it is troubling. And I know it has been at top of mind for your force in trying to say, listen, we need to put an end to this. I know working on this shift, we always hear the calls of a tow truck, a fire lit up, another one moments later. Clearly, there's something going on here. So what have you seen in recent years as to why we really need to do this now?
Well, as you've described, we've seen a significant increase in violence. We've seen shootings, we've seen fire bombings, we've seen assaults, we see threats and intimidation and violence that puts innocent bystanders at risk and legitimate tow operators in very dangerous situations.
And I think that's really important to note. The legitimate tow truck operators are being lumped in with some of this criminal activity that we're seeing, unfortunately, and giving tow truck operators a bad name in this. And the consumer or the person at the end of all of this, if they're looking for a tow, who do they trust? And that is the thing. The trust isn't there right now, and so hopefully the regulation will help. So what are these next steps in order to crack down on the criminal activity and to leave the public feeling safe?
The next steps are continuing with the laser-type focus that police services around the GTA and extending even to the east of the province in Ottawa have had on corruption in the tow industry, and seeing our capacity build with the investment that's being made by our government to ensure that we've got the capability and capacity to strictly enforce the laws, and through collaboration and intelligence-led enforcement, initiate investigations that disrupt and dismantle the organized criminal networks responsible for this violence. And you will also see the implementation of new regulations that you've spoke to and pilot tow zones that ensure tow operators that have the appropriate licensing, equipment, training, and capacity to safely deal with motorists who are stranded at the side of the road or involved in a collision get the much needed assistance they will require.
Commissioner, when we talk about those drivers, what should they be looking out for? Let's say their car breaks down, they need a tow. What are some pieces of advice to know that they're dealing with someone who is legitimate and that they should trust?
But, certainly as we move forward between today and when the regulations are in place, we have a lot of motorists that are fortunate to have roadside assistance through very reputable roadside providers. If somebody does break down at the side of the road on a 400 series highway or is involved in a collision, that can be a very dangerous situation. And I recommend that they call the OPP. We will dispatch a cruiser and we will ensure that they are safely got off the road and to a safe location, and everybody's interests are kept at the heart of the matter.
Commissioner, I want to ask you this because within the investigation, there have been some connections with members who have been given preference. And I'm talking about OPP and given preference internally to various tow truck operators. I know there were charges involved with that. I don't know if you can speak to that, but where's the crackdown internally?
Well, we spent over 12 months conducting an internal investigation, and we have held officers accountable who have been involved in corrupt practice. That investigation continues as we move towards the prosecution phase. So the details of which we won't be talking about specifically this morning, but you can see from the commitment that the OPP has expressed towards holding officers accountable who engage in corrupt practices, that effort will continue. And that is not just the OPP. We've seen a variety of other police services whose chiefs are just as dedicated and just as committed to upholding the professional values that 99.9% of our dedicated police officers espouse every day through risking their lives in our communities to keep our citizens safe.
Very important indeed. Commissioner, before I let you go, I know you have a busy day. I want to ask you about COVID-19, which is at top of mind, and your officers on the front line day in, day out. So we thank them for their service. Do you have an update on what it looks like when it comes to vaccination rollout for officers? Is it by municipality or as a force in general, and where they lie with phase rollout for vaccinations?
With the Ontario Provincial Police, we will be proceeding with voluntary vaccination of officers who are actively working the front line and do respond to medical calls for service. They are at high risk, and those arrangements are being made through the local public health units.
Okay. Thank you very much. I appreciate your time and your insight and all of this information. OPP Commissioner Thomas Creek, thank you.
Thank you.